Hello everyone, my name is James Hunt, and welcome to my proposal for the study of the effects of onboarding in Air Force Security Forces enlisted production and retention. Air Force Security Forces members are the police in the Air Force. Much like military police in the Army, they are charged with guarding the gate, as well as maintaining law enforcement and guarding high-value assets to include the flight line on most military installations. Most of the younger enlisted did not pick the job and were assigned it somewhere through their basic training process, arriving at their first base after training, not knowing why they're there, and not really finding the why behind the importance of their job. I was a first sergeant for more than a year for a security forces squadron in Colorado Springs and witnessed a lot of these firsthand. Security forces members have a relatively low job satisfaction and a high turnover rate when compared to other career fields of the same caliber within the Air Force. Because they are charged with guarding some of the nation's most secure assets depending on the base, their job is very important, and low satisfaction and high turnover has led to some serious injuries, deaths, and other mistakes across the Air Force. Most security forces training initially is a small tech school, followed by a quick orientation when they get to their first base, and then quickly arming them and putting them at the gate to guard against intrusion. Because a lot of the security forces go through tech school without proper motivation, they are generally unmotivated, and when they get to their first assignment, to be anything spectacular or to learn and go above and beyond. Because of this, low productivity and mistakes do happen. An effective onboarding process not only orientates them to their new assignment and job, but it also begins to transform their mentality and change their mindset to accept the new culture. This has shown to make improvements in all areas and other career fields that accept an effective onboarding process, which can take sometimes up to a month to complete. Assuming that a proper onboarding process will in fact increase job satisfaction and retention within Air Force Security Forces, two questions that are posed by doing this research are: what are the long-term enterprise benefits of employee satisfaction and retention? What effect does this have on the unit itself and the members in their long-term career? And what are the benefits to the customer, meaning people that visit the base and the other members of the Air Force that reside and work on that installation, as well as attributing to overall mission success with a higher security rate of all Air Force assets. When doing initial research on onboarding and understanding how to change the process that Security Forces uses into something better to meet our goals, we must first research the process that the other organizations have used to improve their onboarding and increase employee satisfaction and retention. On top of that, there's psychological aspects that go into onboarding and people satisfaction that must be understood. One of those psychological aspects that translates into a business theory is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, meaning how do we meet the employee's basic needs and satisfaction that ends up increasing productivity and transforming them as a member into a leader. Another thing to understand is that when we look at the human resources aspect of things, that there's a difference between personnel and personal, meaning that each individual is a human with their own goals and wants, and how do we as an organization use the human resources process to meet those goals so they can be then reinvested into the organization. Two ways I plan to gather this data is through quantitative and qualitative measures. For quantitative, I plan to use the Air Force and Security Forces Squadron statistics on retention. This can be found through AFPC and the Air Force Security Forces Center, both in San Antonio. For the qualitative measures, I plan to use both surveys and interviews before, during, and after the onboarding process to judge how these changes are affecting the airman's mentality, production, and satisfaction. Additionally, I can use local retention rates, one compared to the Air Force standard, to see if there's positive changes in retention. For the participants of this research project, I plan to mainly focus on young Air Force Security Forces members that are both new to the Air Force and new to the unit. This will judge the effects of the onboarding on the new members to see if it's changing their mentality and acclimation to the culture. Additionally, I plan to interview the supervisors and commanders of each unit to judge their observations on things they are noticing that I am not able to see. Again, for the data collection, I plan to use the literature review found in the Air Force records, as well as the surveys to the young enlisted and interviews of all ranks. Based on the planned 6-month improvement from a regular orientation course to a full-on onboarding process, I plan to see an increase in job satisfaction, mainly in the young enlisted, but also in the older supervision and command team as well, as they observe the better output, performance, and satisfaction of each of the airmen. Additionally, I think it'll also increase the enlistment periods of these airmen where some would get out after a 4 or 6 year enlistment. I plan to see a higher level of re-enlistments. As mentioned earlier, low job satisfaction in security forces increase the danger involved in the members and the community on the base as these members are armed. With an increase in job satisfaction, I expect to see an overall safer work environment with less mishaps that sometimes turn deadly, as well as less turnover and retention within both the enlisted force and the civilian counterparts that work with them. The beneficiaries of this improvement are American citizens overall, as these security forces members are not only charged with guarding the bases and assets in America, but internationally as well. And especially our military forces that are on these bases, these members are charged to protect. Once again, my name is James Hunt, and this is my proposal for the study of onboarding and security forces members in the Air Force. This is the references that I used to prepare this proposal, and I thank you for your time.